Welcome to NMH at 1, your lunchtime news and current affairs program. It's a happy Thursday, and I will be keeping you company as we go through an hour of your latest news from all corners of Namibia, Africa, and the world. My name is Aina Raiza Kweyo, and I will be your lunchtime champion. In the news today, same-sex couple disappointed by judgment of Supreme Court appeal. The Namibian Tourism Expo is back. We take a look at some of the highlights from the launch. South Africa is in support of a unified African currency. We take a look at these stories and more lined up in today's broadcast. Welcome back to NMH at 1, and it's time now for your visual news. The Namibian Tourism Expo has launched in the capital yesterday. Here, the host of the Namibian Media Holding Executive, Albi Botha, speaks about the event. Let's have a look.
Our focus, and it still is going forward, was then to move into youth and tourism. In the meantime, COVID did happen, as you quite rightly know, and we were required, is maybe the right word, because force sounds like a war, and I don't want to talk war today. We're required to realign our strategy to understand that COVID's disruption is not just something that's going to be here and then gone. It is a reality that we're going to have to work with for some time. So the word sustainable all of a sudden was no longer just saving the rhino or the elephant. It was to save an entire industry that was on the brink of collapse. And although we're not invested in any establishment at all as Namibian Media Holdings, we are partners like no other business that's not invested. And we had to go and say, how do we make a model work going forward in terms of tourism, in terms of reaching people so that people can support our country, and more specifically, countries 10 degrees south of the equator. And that's where the concept of 10 degrees south came. I think it's more valid now than ever before that how we will find a sustainable tourism model to replace the current disruption that COVID-19 and the war in Europe will have an impact on us, is to make sure that and I'm not a very good politician, that's why I don't like using the word SADC countries, but as SADC countries, we work on inter-tourism engagements. So that's where we are now, actively finding ways, how do we get tourists from Botswana, from South Africa, from Zimbabwe, from Angola, from Zambia, our neighboring countries to support us. Unfortunately, cars and planes have to travel both ways. So I think what has changed is our understanding of how do we support these countries as well. And we have to find ways of not just requesting people to come to our country, but also how do we find ways of promoting to go to countries.
The Supreme Court appeal judgment handed down on Monday, which was brought by Guillermo Delgado, a Mexican national, and his husband, Namibian Philip Lil, has deeply disappointed the couple. And here is why.
Guillermo Delgado, who earlier this week heard that an appeal to the Supreme Court against the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration partially succeeded, says he and husband Philip Lul were left deeply disappointed by the court's decision. The couple say they are back at square one after years of battling to finalize Delgado's immigration status to allow the family to live and work in peace in Namibia.
And the Supreme Court acknowledged the illegal and unjust way in which I was treated by the Ministry of Home Affairs, but then did nothing for the domicile. It basically virtually sided with the ministry's narrative and put me back on square one in the sense of go and let the ministry review your application afresh. So for me, I feel like back on the counter in 2017. So then that's for me why I'm very clear that this was not a positive outcome for me.
I think for me, the core of it is really that the Supreme Court is telling us that they don't see us as a family, you know? That the fact that we are together, we live here, together since 2011. We have 3 children together. We have a home together. We have, family and friends, colleagues, a career that we made here together. All of that is invisible to the Supreme Court. They simply see Guillermo as like somebody who works in this country on the basis of a work permit and nothing more. And that is a choice that the Supreme Court is making. Of course, that is also the same choice that Home Affairs is making, based on the aspect that same-sex relationships are not recognized, right? In fact, between men, they are even criminalized in this country. And that gives both Home Affairs, Border Patrol, border sort of officers and everybody the license to keep on, discriminating. And that is really what the Supreme Court sided with, right? So even though they had like all these nice words about mistreatment and inhumane treatment for Guillermo, who was literally and procedurally kicked out of the country, without any recourse to the law, to, legal representation or anything. The Supreme Court yesterday or on Monday sided with the narrative that, we are not a family. We are, just, 2 individuals. Well, in fact, actually only one individual, non-Namibian who happens to be in this country, right? And I think that is, for me, what is the sort of damaging, aspect of this judgment, because simply put, the Supreme Court already told us that we should go back to Home Affairs, but basically they provided Home Affairs already with the reasons why they should just reject us again.
Do you think there was a missed opportunity here?
I think there was. I mean, I'm not a legal expert. I think there are many missed opportunities in this judgment, because it, in the same breath as it says like, oh, this is not about, the recognition of same-sex marriages or something. It says this is about the question of how do you obtain domicile. And even with this question, the Supreme Court doesn't deal with, right? Because it doesn't give us the answer as to how do you obtain domicile. So the fact that, if you're married to a Namibian as a foreign national, that's only one of the reasons in the Immigration Act why you should have domicile. But there's, other ways that would confer domicile status as well. There's simply no process to obtain domicile. And I think that whole confusion was noted, but then it was just again sort of, thrown back to Home Affairs to say, well, here's some space for sort of law reform, where I'm not confident that that law reform will be taken seriously.
Do you feel in any way hopeful it's going to go differently for you now?
I think the main difference between 2017 and now is that there are social movements and considerable civil society activism around many of the various cases that are evidence of discrimination against LGBTQ people and families. So I think that's the main difference. In 2017, I suppose I was there by myself. I think if I deliver my application, I won't think I will go alone. I think I will take along a couple of allies, and it will be marked. And the eyes are being watched because it's really about. This has to be very clear. The Supreme Court judgment in its first paragraphs made it or tried to kind of distance itself from that. This is not an LGBTQ issue. This is not about same sex. It's all about it overall. I mean, and the fact that they chose to just narrow it down to the technicalities of domicile or so on is just, as we just said, it's a missed opportunity.
When we return, we will be taking a sneak peek inside Namibia's daily print publications, but first, a quick ad break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. The Namibian Sun quotes President Hage Geingob from the interview with the news channel Al Jazeera, in which he said that giving people land through reform and redistribution will not necessarily improve their lives. Land as per se does not make you rich, the head of the state told a well-known TV channel. I have had a farm for more than 20 years, but I can tell you that you can sit there and starve, the head of state said in the interview. The Namibian Sun reports that the official opposition leader, Henry Venani, asked the National Assembly to again urgently discuss Namibia's housing crisis. He mentioned that the renting double garage in the capital city can cost as much as 4,000 Namibian dollars a month. Because of unaffordability, he said shacks has become a solution for most people in the country. The Afrikaans Daily Republican leads with the final report about a tragic accident outside Windhoek in December 2020, in which 2 occupants of the gyrocopter died when the craft hit the power line. Investigators, amongst others, found that both men were under the influence of alcohol and that the pilot was not licensed and that they flew below the approved height, which is 7,000 feet. Moving on to our next story, the Republican on page 3 also has a story saying that the Ministry of Environment and Forestry Tourism renewed an assurance at the press conference yesterday that no occupation or illegalities occurred during the auction of 57 elephants, for which bidders on average paid $75,000 and $150,000 per animal. Local and international criticism continues against the sale of and the exporting of some of these animals. Allgemeine Zeitung, the German daily, points out that the cases of COVID-19 in Namibia have decreased to record new lows, with only 7-day average of only 4 cases per day. Only 21 patients are still hospitalized, one of them receiving critical care. In a photo story, Allgemeine Zeitung reports on the donation made yesterday by Japan of 300 tons of rice to the unit of the Prime Minister's office, which deals with emergency care and support. The consignment is valued at more than 38 million Namibian dollars and will be used to feed communities suffering from hunger due to food insecurity. The Namibian leads with a possible adverse economic effect that may stem from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but also reports on its front page that the High Court has dismissed arguments by Andrew Ndishishi, a former chairperson of the new defunct SME Bank, that he cannot be held liable to pay back the director's fees he earned during his tenure at the institution. One of his arguments was that looting of the bank did not take place during his time. Liquidators are claiming about 2 million Namibian dollars from various directors because their gross dereliction of duties led to the demise of the bank and because their sitting fees were never approved legally. The Namibian also says that the Walvis Bay City Council is debating now to continue extending the town's border in order to create space for residential housing and other developments. The town is eyeing state land to the east of the purpose. This purpose. When the former South African Harbour Territory incorporated into Namibia in 1994, it only had an estimated 20,000 residents, a number that has grown to about 90,000. New Era, like the Namibian, also zooms in the economic fallout caused by the war in Eastern Europe, zooming on Russia's contribution of 31% to global diamond production. Sanctions can affect prices in this market, and there are also fears that the so-called blood diamonds may seep into suppliers again. According to New Era, the Namibian Broadcasting Corporation has signed an in-kind sponsorship agreement with the Training Authority and World Skill Africa to daily report on the continent's skills challenges, which will be hosted in Swakopmund as of the 28th of March to the 2nd of April. More than 100 competitors from 11 countries will compete in 16 countries. The car package in the Market Watch cases the Suzuki Celerio. The compact vehicle with excellent fuel efficiency is now available in the local market, only 3 months after it was launched internationally. Market Watch looks at the financial result of Nedbank, which mirrors a return to pandemic performance in some sectors of the economy. The group's headline earnings recovered to 11.7 billion rand in 2021 from 5.4 billion in 2020, while impairments decreased from 13.1 billion to 6.5 billion. We bring you more economic news when we return from the break. Stay with us. In today's economic news, SA wants a single African currency to boost intra-continental trade. South Africa is in full support of establishing a single African currency backed by continental central bank and monetary institutions. According to the International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor, the establishment of the African Union Central Bank, Africa's Investment Bank, and the African Monetary Institute are considered critical to facilitate a single currency and boost the intra-Africa trade. Pandor said the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and start of the trading on the 1st of January 2021 are viewed as catalysts of long-term continental prosperity and integration. Furthermore, Pandor said South Africa utilizes its participation at AU statutory meeting to call for establishment of the AUFI and the subsequent realization of a single currency. Pandor also said that the August 2021 Southern African Development Community Summit reaffirmed the bloc's position to create a SADC Central Bank Monetary Union. Now, according to Pandor, a long-term objective is creating harmonization of SADC countries' fiscal and monetary policies. Now we move over to our next story. Legally, the oil is not ours, says President Hage Geingob. President Hage Geingob yesterday said legally the recently discovered oil off the coast of Namibia does not belong to the country. This is because the majority shareholder of the oil right is not Namibia. He explained the legality is that 90% owned by the investor, but explained that Namibia is going to benefit through taxes and royalties. National Planning Commission head Obeth Kanjode reacted to Geingob's statement, saying there was nothing wrong with the statement, which according to him refers to the contractual agreement in place. Kanjode said once the involved parties sign a petroleum agreement, everyone is expected to respect the agreement. Geingob has said that these projects should fully benefit the local economy. Airline cancels more flights as fuel scarcity continues. Flight delays and cancellation among airlines in Nigeria continue unabated as scarcity of aviation fuel bites harder and the cost of purchase increases. At Nigeria's busiest airport in Lagos and Abuja, aircraft scheduled to fly on Tuesday were parked for hours waiting for fuel. Local media reports that the airline, like Ibom Air, could not fly most of their aircraft on Tuesday, the 8th of March, due to the scarcity. The airline admitted the situation and predicted the situation may extend on Wednesday. Last month, one of Nigeria's airline, Air Peace, informed passengers that some of their flights were delayed due to the scarcity. The airline said their Lagos Port Harcourt flight for 2:30 on February the 15th was delayed due to a lack of fuel. And the Port Harcourt in Abuja flight for 1400 hours and the Abuja to Lagos for 1400 hours was also affected. Despite being Africa's largest producer of oil, Nigeria imports most of its jet oil. Now we take a look at your economic indicators. All four currencies show a decline in value, with the British pound now going for 20 Namibian dollars and 3 cents. Mainly consistent stock prices expect for MTC and First Rent Namibia Ltd, which saw a decrease in the stock prices. The local overall index closed at a lower price, while Paratus saw a 10% decline in the price. More when we return from the break with your continental news. Welcome back to NMH at 1. It's now time for us to look at the African news. HRW accuses army of killing at least 13 protesters in Chad. The army killed at least 13 peaceful demonstrators, including a child and people attending funerals in late January in eastern Chad following a dispute between communities, and this is according to the Human Rights Watch. Soldiers killed at least 3 people, including a 12-year-old boy, when security forces violently dispersed thousands of peaceful demonstrators by firing live ammunition. HRW said in a joint statement with Chadian Convention for Defense of Human Rights. The army also wounded 80 people that day and arrested 212 others, some of whom were beaten and detained in inhuman conditions for up to 5 days before being released without charge, the NGO said. The following day, during the burial of the victims, soldiers once again fired live ammunition indiscriminately, killing more than 10 people and injuring at least 40 others. This is according to HRW. The NGO bases its accusation on the testimonies from demonstrators, victim families, health professions, and the examination of 8 videos and 41 photographs, and demands a thorough and impartial investigation into the excessive use of force by the security forces. Now we move on to our next story. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta calls for the lifting of sanctions on Zimbabwe. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on the international community to lift sanctions against Zimbabwe, stating that the restrictions are hurting the southern African nation. Kenyatta termed the sanctions as illegal and accused Zimbabwe of Kenya's continued advocacy to ensure that the restrictions are lifted. This we consider being unfair, and these hardships are artificially created, and we continue to call on the international community to remove these illegal sanctions, President Uhuru Kenyatta said. The two countries signed a bilateral agreement which include a memorandum of understanding on diplomatic consultation, tourism, wildlife conservation, a civil craft accident, and serious accident investigation. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta said agreements will enable Kenya and Zimbabwe to cooperate in addressing challenges, particularly in youth employment. More after the break. Stay with us. Thank you very much for watching NMH at 1, and here are your international news. Russia rejects Ukraine charge of genocide as invasion enters a third week. Russia's war in Ukraine entered a third week yesterday with one of its stated objectives reached, despite thousands of people killed, more than 2 million made refugees, and 1,000 forced to cower in besieged cities under relentless bombardment. Ukraine again said Russia was carrying out a genocide by bombing a children hospital in the city of Mariupol. Reports which Russia said were fake news, as the building was a former maternity hospital that had long been taken over by the troops. Putin has said the advance by his forces in Ukraine was going according to plan and to schedule. Russia calls its incursion a special operation to disarm its neighbors and dislodge leaders it calls neo-Nazis. Zelensky accused Russia of carrying out a genocide after Ukraine officials said the Russian aircraft bombed a children's hospital on Wednesday, burying patients in rubble despite a ceasefire deal for people to flee to Mariupol, and this is according to Reuters. In our next story, South Korea elects a conservative South Korean opposition candidate Yoon Suk-yeol rode to victory after a tight presidential election on a wave of discontent over economic policy, scandals and gender wars, reshaping political future of Asia's fourth largest economy. His victory in Wednesday's bitterly fought election marks a stunning turnaround of the main conservative bloc, now known as the People Power Party, which regrouped since 2017 snap election after the impeachment and the ouster of President Park Geun-hye. He faces the challenges of uniting a country of 52 million riven by gender and general division, growing inequality, and surging home prices. The people here put their hope in my conviction that I will not yield to any power for fairness and justice for 26 years. Yoon said in a speech of his career as prosecutor. Now, after the break, we return with your sports news.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Welcome back to NMH at 1, and here are your sports news. The Eagles suffered a 3-wicket defeat to the United Arab Emirates in an extraordinary match in Dubai on Tuesday. They beat Oman on Sunday and will now face Oman tomorrow in a Tri-Nation Cricket World Cup League 2 series. The DTD Padres Promotion Boxing Development Tournament was held in Swakopmund, brought some hope to the revival movement of the boxing in Irongo region. Closing to 50 juniors and senior boxers from the region participated. Now the co-owners of TD Padres Promotion, boxer Danny Boy Feliciano and Basil Pascal, are calling on sponsors to enable them to stage more tournaments in the Irongo region, which used to produce popular boxers in the 1980s and 1990s. The town of Ongwediva in the Oshana region will host the Namibian Basketball Federation Zonal Independence Cup that will see national selector scouting for new players. 5 regions of Oshana, Oshikoto, Ohangwena, and Kavango East will each select their best under 16, under 18, and boys and girls under 23 teams to represent the region from the 18th to the 21st of March in Ongwediva. Moving on to international sports news, more after the break. Stay with us. In the international sport news, we take a look at Nikita Mazepin, a Russian driver who was sacked by Formula One outfit Haas, is creating a foundation to help sports people who have found themselves barred from competing due to political reasons out of their control. Mazepin and Haas Russian title sponsor Uralkali had their contracts terminated last Saturday as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, the 23-year-old Nikita Mazepin said the funds for the We Can Compete as One Foundation would come from the money that Uralkali would have paid Haas. Wales coach Werner Pivac has named Josh Navedi at open-side flanker for the Six Nations match against France in Cardiff on Friday, while also handing a return to veteran centre Jonathan Davis. Navedi only returned to the squad earlier this week following injuries and a test at the Principality Stadium that will be the first Wales since facing the French in last year's Six Nations. Right after the break, there's more on NMH at 1.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Welcome back to NMH at 1, and here are your highlights. African Army killed at least 13 peaceful demonstrators, including a child and people attending funerals in late January in eastern Chad following a dispute between 2 communities, Human Rights Watch said on Wednesday. Russia's war in Ukraine entered its 3rd week yesterday, none of its stated object being reached, despite thousands of people being killed, more than 2 million made refugees, and thousands forced to cower in besieged cities under relentless bombardment. The Eagles suffered a 3-wicket defeat to the United Arab Emirates in an extraordinary match in Dubai on Tuesday. They beat Oman on Sunday and will now face Oman tomorrow in a Tri-Nation Cricket World Cup League 2 series. Russia driver Nikita Mazepin, sacked by Formula One Haas, is creating a foundation to help sports people who have found themselves barred from competing due to political reasons out of their control. South Africa is in full support of establishing a single African currency backed by the Continental Central Bank and Monetary Institute, according to the International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor. The establishment of Africa's Union Central Bank, African Investment Bank, and the African Monetary Institute are considered critical to facilitate a single currency and boost the intra-Africa trade. Those have been your highlights. Thank you very much for staying with NMH at 1. Remember to tune in tomorrow, same time, same place. We also broadcast on our website, which is 1 up to, and also we have a DSTV channel 285. Additionally, we are on GoTV, and that's on channel 94. From myself, Aina Raiza Kweo, it's all my love, all my light. Your original review coming up next.
Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome back to another edition of the Regional Review. My name is Enzo Amwele, the correspondent for Namibia Media Holdings in the Central North. Before we continue into our show today is World Kidney Day. This day raises awareness of what the kidney can do and what it cannot do when it doesn't function properly. Please do stay tuned.
I've been around your love for a while now. It's hard to picture, laugh about it. We were awkward in the beginning. Now we're in a bubble alone. We're surrounded.
Welcome back from our Daily Ed viewers. First up in our news, the governor of Otshonzuba region met with recognized traditional authorities in the region. This is part of the annual consultative meetings to discuss common issues concerning communities within the region of Otshonzuba region. James Werika also urged the traditional authority leaders to work closely together and to ensure that services and disputes are solved in the communities.
I have 5 applications from 5 different traditional authorities in the Shogunjupa region that are seeking recognition as traditional authorities. That is in addition to yourselves already, who are recognized in your various capacities, in your various areas of jurisdiction and operating in the region of Shogunjupa. So I saw it fit as well that you as key stakeholders, we need to discuss and pave a way forward. We need to discuss on the aspects of inclusive governance, where participatory governance is the order of the day, where we consult on every action to be taken. We consult on government programs to be executed. You might be aware that a lot of OMAs throughout government are busy reviewing their annual and strategic plans. The budget of our government have already been tabled by the Honorable Minister of Finance, and it will go into debate in Parliament. As regions, as traditional authorities, we need to project ourselves in such a way that we can have meaningful impact through the necessary means that our voice can be heard as far as debates are concerned, as far as considerations are concerned. Though the budget is already tabled, it is yet to be gazetted and to be promulgated into what we call the appropriation bill. So this is important, that such consultations must happen early at the beginning of the year. I want to talk strongly the cooperation between traditional authorities in regions and in Namibia. The government of the Republic of Namibia have 52 recognized traditional authorities in the Republic of Namibia. And on top of that, there are the unrecognized traditional authorities that are operating within their various communities as of how they identify themselves within their communities. Them being part and parcel of the Republic of Namibia, we also consult, because every consultation is key in decision making. The cooperation between traditional authority is a cause of concern, whereby you find traditional authorities in one region, but people do not coexist and try to exchange ideas and leadership aspects that can solve problems. We are serving the same community. Thus, we need to be consulting and be on the same page and work together. But if we are not harmonized at all levels, we will never be able to achieve our objectives on time.
Well, it is indeed a privilege to see the leadership of the Otjo-Zupa Regional Council meeting with all these relevant stakeholders to ensure that the communities are really served and that development takes place in the community, within the region. Next up in our news. The governor of Otjo-Zupa region, James Werika, led a delegation of regional councillors, Senared, and the chief regional officer, Ms. Agatha Moeti, for an urgent meeting with Nampower over the combat settlement electrification program. This comes after the army's threat by the power utility to disconnect power supply to the settlement to recover a 29 million debt owed to them. Next up in our news, a 25-year-old farmer who farms around the area of Grootfontein plants 50,000 dry land maize on a 330-hectare land in his area. He believes that the youth should get involved in more of farming, and as well as the Namibian cooperatives, to ensure that there are loans available for agriculture production. And he also believes that technology should definitely usher the farming industry.
The leadership of Otjiwarongo municipality held a stakeholder engagement on the 2nd of March 2022 to include their contributions for inclusion in the 2022-2023 budget. The engagement, according to the municipality's Chief Executive Officer Moses Matiai, is to look at how the council can support post-COVID recovery and transform the way council services are delivered to ensure they are modern, effective, efficient, and environmentally friendly. Matiai added that local authorities face significant funding cuts to the budget over the recent years, and he said that this has been made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has left the council with a large budget shortfall, as well as hitting businesses and families hard.
Vision for the next 5-year operations, and it was developed under the theme Together for a Smart, Vibrant and Sustainable Otjiwarongo Excellence. Why are we saying smart, vibrant and sustainable? Because we are living in a global village. The world has evolved that we are not operating in isolation. We have to adapt to all the involved IT or information technology that is currently prominent within the service delivery when you look in the world. So we also have to adapt to those IT systems that will help us to deliver our services effectively and efficiently. What is our mission? Our mission as the council is we exist to evolve into the world-class smart city and vibrant economic hub of service excellence and shared prosperity.
The constitution that gives us the mandate to exist up to a lot of legislation, but the most important piece of legislation for our municipality to execute the mandate that was given to us emanates from the Local Authorities Act, and specifically Section 82 and 83. 82 reference to our financial year, which stretched from the 1st of July up to the 30th of June of every year. So that's a set of date set in which we need to determine our budget. And then under section 83, it gives the council the mandate with certain guidelines from the minister to draft all the estimates for revenue and expenditure and of capital nature, and then also approve that as council. And then the tariffs is presented to the minister for approval and then gazetting through their administration process. Must I speak louder? Okay, sorry. You can hear me. Thank you. So that gives us the legal mandate. Why are we, or why should we draft a budget? Now, a budget is basically a technical implementation of the municipality's 5-year strategic plan. We just heard Frida highlighting our plan. The plan was drafted last year.